Hi Cancer, welcome to your month ahead Tarotscope with me, Raphael from Reydiant Reality. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. I would be eternally grateful for it. If you are already a continued subby, thank you so much for all of your support. It truly means the world. If you would like to book a personal tarot reading with me or get a personal video or a written reading, you can do so at my website, which is in the description link below. And the website is www.reydiantreality.com, spelled R-E-Y, not R-A-D. So before we start, I would like to bless all three of these decks with all forms of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance. And I pray that the messages that come through are ultimately clear and concise and they help you on your path to your highest vibrational good. So let's see what the month of October 2018 has in store for you in terms of your actions and your interactions with the world at large. And you have the Page of Swords. Interesting. So the Page of Swords usually talks about it could be contracts, because it's the pages are very similar to aces. They always bring messages or new beginnings of sorts. When you get the Page of Swords, this is very much, in one respect it's about people gossiping. In another respect, it's very much about you sort of using your words as weapons. The thing about the Page of Swords, you see how he kind of wields the sword there like, yeah. And this is kind of saying your actions this month, it almost feels to me, even though I haven't got a Seven of Wands here, it feels to me like you're going to be acting from a place of defense. And what I mean by this is it's kind of like the way that you speak to people is going to be very defensive. And I caution against that, because when we act defensive, people tend to respond to us in a certain way, and when they respond to us in a certain way, we then feel that we are under attack. So it's kind of like a catch-22 that feeds into itself. This month, speak your truth, stand up for yourself, absolutely. Use your mind, you know, wisely and willingly as you might need to, but also be aware that you might not be under the attack that you think you are. And if you are, then instead of kind of coming from a defensive point of view, this month I feel like it would be much more beneficial for you to say, look, you know what, if you've got something to say or you've got something to ask me, just ask me, or just, you know, don't do the whole, I kind of feel like, as well, I'm a Cancer moon, before you start bagging on me for saying this, but Cancerians can be a little bit emotionally manipulative. It's part of, you know, one of the things, and they can tend to say things that come across as moody or crabby, and it's usually because they make an observation but they give a little bit of an extra dig with that observation, you know, which can sometimes be received like, oh, okay, well, you know, all you had to do was say. And I kind of feel like this month rather, you are going to be in that situation. You're going to be in that feeling of, you know what, just say what you mean and mean what you say, and we'll be better for it. And I kind of feel like this month, rather than you know, going off on somebody and just kind of letting them have it and giving them that little sort of dig or that snap, it's going to be more beneficial for you to just say to somebody, look, you know what, out with it. What is it that you actually want to say underneath all of that? Because at the moment I'm feeling like you're coming at me, you know, with a sidestep, and that's my domain. Jokes. So it looks like you're bringing things out into the open, and you're bringing people out with that, you know, and just saying to people, look, if you've got, you know, if there is any message that you've got for me, or there's something you want to ask me, don't speculate. Come and ask me what the situation is, and I will, you know, and I'll tell you, which is, you know, it's a good place to be in. And I think more than anything, rather than a prediction, that's actually a warning for this month. You know, think about, instead of being defensive, be proactive and just say to people, look, whatever it is that you've got to say or that you want to know, just come out with it. So your money and your materials this month, the Eight of Cups. Eight of Cups is a good card to have in terms of monetary and materials, because your money and your materials is about the physical world, it's about the financial world. The Eight of Cups is about leaving something behind. If you're having a dispute with somebody over money, my advice to you, especially with that Eight of Cups, is kind of saying that it's already passed. And if the issue is already passed, like somebody owed you something, or they were holding something back from you, or, you know, they paid you in dribs and drabs as opposed to paying you in the lump sum that they had to give you, cut your losses and run. Don't go back to it. In terms of your money and your materials, I kind of feel like once you get over how you feel in other respects to other things, you'll be able to move past this as well. So the 8 of Cups in your money and your materials is basically saying to you that the imbalance of, I might not have enough, or am I going to be able to make ends meet this month, or is this going to happen, is this going to work? It's already past. Don't bring it with you. Don't come from that place of lack this month, because it's not going to be you've already had that experience. You've had that experience of not having enough, or having to say to somebody, I need you to back me up, or I need you to give me this back. In terms of that stuff, that situation, that has already passed. Don't bring the emotional imbalance with you into this month. So your communications with the world at large. Okay, so you get the 5 of Swords. Yeah, there's definitely going to be some conversations this month, and I kind of feel like you're not holding back. And a big part of this as well, especially now I see it like this, you've got 5 of Swords. So Page of Swords sees you really actively speaking up, but coming from a place of defense. Don't come from that place. And in terms of the money and the materials, cut your losses and run. You've had that experience. Don't bring it forward with you. When you get the 5 of Swords in the communications, this is basically saying, the 5 of Swords is about fraught communication. It's about bickering, squabbles. It's about, and this as well, when I see these two together, it's kind of like, almost like this feeling of, that backbiting bitch has said this about me, or she said that about you. Try not to have that mindset. But it does look to me like you are very vocal this month. You're very vocal about what you feel people are doing, about what you feel is and isn't their business, which is a good thing, because sometimes the outside world, and when people are curious, they can get nosy, and when they get nosy, sometimes that can become a bit obsessive. And with all of the astrology that's happening, Venus into Scorpio, we're all going to get a bit obsessive in some way, shape or form. But in terms of this, what I want to say to you is, think about what you want to say, think about what it is that is actually happening, and address that. Don't come from a place of personal speculation. So if you think people are talking about you, find out if they are, and once you find out that they are or they aren't, address it then. But don't just come from a place that I kind of feel like you're in like real defensive mode this month, and you're going to need to find some way to keep out of that. It's easier said than done, especially when you feel that something's happening to you or around you. But your communications this month, it looks like they are a little bit tenuous, and it sees you really not holding back or suffering fools gladly. You're gonna let people have it. The only thing that I would say in that respect as well is, don't let people compromise you. And when I see this card, I always say to people, is the battle worth the war? And that's not to say that you're coming up against a war. It kind of looks a bit like the war is a bit more in your emotions and within yourself this month, as opposed to out there. And you need to find some way of dealing with that on an internal level, so that you don't end up causing these things. But also, if you do find yourself having squabbles and having words with people, it's really important that you don't allow them to take you to a point where you come away from it and think, you know what, I don't feel, I might have won that argument, but I actually feel like a really rough person for even having it, or for saying some of the things that I said. Don't let them compromise who you are in that respect. So your heart and your half, your personal, emotional, ties, which is good. You've got the Star card. The Star card says that this month, especially with these cards, because this is about your personal relationships. Your personal relationships is where you find your support network and your support system. And for you guys especially, for those of you that are partnered, it looks like, your relationship is solid this month. You might have a few bickers, a few squabbles, but ultimately you reach a place of peace. For those of you that are, single, this kind of says that this month you're going to be very much about other people. It's almost like you're going to be so much about other people, and so much is going on, certainly through the airwaves, emails, text messages, all of that stuff, that you won't really have time to be thinking about a love life, so like per se. The other as well, this kind of tells me, because the Star card's ruled by Aquarius, that's the group consciousness, people that are your support network, and this kind of, to me, it's almost saying that although everything else outside is happening, your family, you know, your parents, your siblings, your cousins, your aunts, for those of you that don't have any of those things in close proximity, it will be, you know, through a medium. So that could be, you know, Skype, TV, you know, text messages, all of that sort of stuff. But it could also be, you know, people in your vicinity, neighbours, you know, friends that you're close to, all of that. Whatever your group or your, you know, your familial network is, that's going to be where you find a lot of your support this month. And I would personally go to them, use them as a sounding board, you know, to get your feelings out before you start sort of going out and saying, right, well, you're doing this and I don't like it and that's happening, and you know, like you're taking yourself out of taking yourself off kilter as opposed to remaining on kilter. And it's in large part how, you know, down to how you feel this month. So just keep that in mind. You know, if you've got something that is running through your mind and you think, you know, that's actually making me quite angry or whatever, voice those opinions to your support network before you go through with sort of letting people have it. Okay, so your first week of October, you get the Hanged Man with the Page of Swords. Think before you speak this week, you know, because you've got the Page of Swords there above and then you've got the Hanged Man. Think before you speak. This is the mind, you know, this is the waiting, the patience, the stillness. Think before you speak. The first week of October, take your time before you rush off and just kind of start, you know, firing off at every turn. It will feel good at the time, you know, because it's going to be a release of pressure, but then after that it's going to be like, oh, in your moment of self-reflection, you'll probably think to yourself, you know what, I could have handled that better, and I don't feel like I handled myself in the way that I choose to usually. Don't let somebody else or anything outside you compromise you emotionally because of how you feel. Get a second opinion on it before, you know. Sometimes we think things are happening and actually they're not, you know. So the second week of October, you get the World card. Underneath the Eight of Cups, a new era of financial abundance and prosperity is coming your way. I kind of feel like this month though, Cancer, you're getting really serious about the fine print when it comes to your finances. I kind of feel a lot of you, I almost see you sitting there with a pen and paper, writing everything down, being like methodical, working through it and saying, right, okay, this is what my finances look like, and this is what I've got, and this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do. What I would like you to do this month is set yourself a goal. Set yourself a target for the long-term future, you know, whether that is, right, okay, by this time next year I want to have 5 grand saved up in my bank account for X, Y and Z, you know, but set yourself some kind of goal, because it kind of looks like you're stepping into a new understanding of what it means to budget, of what it means to finance and stuff. So the second week of October looks really good for you, and it looks like as well, in some way, shape or form, you're really going to be able to master something, you know, it's possibly your finances. Third week of wrong deck. Third week of October, you have the Judgment card. So underneath the Five of Swords, it looks to, especially with the Judgment card, because the Judgment card is always a blast from the past. It brings something or someone back into our lives that we thought was over, and it brings it round, and it usually brings it round so that we can really draw a line under it, because it wasn't really completed, finished, or, you know, sent off the first time round. So it looks like the third week of October, you know, these discussions may well get quite heated. It looks like to me like somebody's coming back to pursue you, and you're like, whoa, we're not there anymore. We haven't been there for a long time, and I'm not interested in pursuing that with you. And even if it is just that, for you to own your power, for you to own your space, you know, use that time, use that moment, because that might be the way that you get all of the other frustration out as well, you know. And this thing, sometimes when we complete something or we tie up a loose end, it frees up a lot of our energy, and it also, you know, helps us clear up a lot of our internal space. So the third week of October, it looks like you get a real chance to do that. And then finally, the fourth week of October, you get the Justice card. right underneath the star card for your heart and your heart and your half, which is really interesting. So the Justice card is basically, it's you making a decision. In the 4th week of October, you are making a decision to commit yourself to something different, to commit yourself to a higher vision and a higher understanding for your life. I very much feel October for everybody in some way, shape or form is going to be the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one. You've got 2 cards here that kind of tell me that really is the case for you. The difference between yours and most people's though, Cancer, is this is going to be in large part down to you. And I kind of feel like it's a bit of a last train Larry, if that makes any sense. Like, everyone will be faced with this kind of energy in some way, shape or form. The difference is with you, especially with the Justice card there, this kind of, to me, it's almost like if you miss the train this month, it's going to be very hard for you to catch up to it at some point later on. I kind of feel like you've got to make this month, you will make some hard and fast decisions. And they may be ones that, that force you to really think and feel a lot of the stuff that you might have been putting off up until this point. Key to the month, you get the Tower. There are big changes ahead for you, Cancer. There are things that are going to shake your foundations. There are things that are going to really force you to think. And it looks like, unfortunately, I have to say, it does look like there are some battles ahead. It looks like there are some moments of understandings, of clarifications, of wisdoms, of, little bombs of knowledge that come your way that really make you say, okay, I'm going to have to reevaluate this, and the course of my life is now going to have to change. It looks like something, some big change, some big shift happens on an internal level this month. But in order for the big change to happen on an external level, you're going to have to really roll with the changes that take place on an internal level. And for you, it is going to be a choice. I think kind of everybody else, this is going to it's going to happen from the outside inward. And for you guys, it's got to come from inside. That's what you're being asked to do, to observe the inside first, so that you can make so that you can solidify or work with the big changes that happen outside. Cancer, I wish you an abundance of love, light, peace, prosperity and abundance itself. Have an amazing month, and I'll see you very soon for more videos. Take care.